Now, on financial independence, what is financial independence? The ability to manage your money in such a way that you have sufficient funds to live your chosen lifestyle without assistance from others. In other words, enough money to meet all your needs, whether you work or not, because a job is really assistance from someone else. That is your employer. This is the definition by Kumuta. Wikipedia tries to rephrase and paraphrase this definition to state that the status of having enough income or wealth sufficient to pay one's living expenses for the rest of one's life without having to be employed or dependent on others. Without having to be employed or dependent on others. Now, given these two definitions, can one attain financial independence overnight? Definitely no. Like I mentioned, under the motivation and the objectives, it cannot happen overnight. One has to plan well ahead of time. And this planning is what I'm going to highlight some points that will enable the listeners and myself to start planning now towards achieving that financial independence. Don't rely on salary, no matter how good it is. That's why in the definition, if you read it again, it says like having enough income or wealth sufficient to pay one's living expenses for the rest of one's life without having to be employed or dependent on others. Without having to be employed. As a salary earner, you are dependent on others. You are dependent on the employer. So don't rely on your salary no matter what, no matter how good it may appear. Strive to be your own employer. Have many streams of income, as many as you can afford. Strive to graduate from being an employee to becoming an employer of labor. That is, be your own boss. But like I said earlier, this will not happen overnight. It takes a lot of planning. Remember, the best of mankind is he who benefits them the most. And failure to plan is indirectly synonymous with planning to fail. Now, on the need for professionals to be financially independent, especially in developing countries. You see, why do I say professionals? Because I'm talking to undergraduate students as well as postgraduate students and all other professionals, whether students or workers. The continuous rising of inflation rates, the continuous inflation rates vis-a-vis dollar exchange. Current trends in the financial markets, you would realize that there is downtrend. You know, the inflation rate is very high, even in the developed nations, in the US, the UK. They all have 40-year inflation rate, 40-year high. Then, when you have inflation, that is not the only case. You also have devaluation of the currencies against the dollar. The pound sterling is at an all-time low against the dollar. The euro is also closing the gap, almost approximately equal to the dollar now. So this will come with attendant consequences in terms of inflation. And then these attendant consequences will lead to poorer standard of living, leading to hardship in all areas. Because one will just wake up overnight and realize that his earnings, his salary, his lifestyle cannot be sustained anymore. Why? Because of inflation. Inflation is eating everywhere in every country due to so many reasons. Of course, the war in Ukraine is one, which is leading to high energy prices, most especially in the developed nations. And then in the developing nations, we have been constantly battling inflation and currency devaluation. Let's take, for instance, in Nigeria, our currency is like now on free fall, getting devalued by the day. Every day you realize that Naira is getting devalued. And then definitely commodities and services will definitely be on the rise on daily basis without commensurate increase in one's earnings. Is there any solution for the free fall of other currencies against the dollar? Yes, there is. You should earn in US dollars wherever you live. This is one of the solutions. You should earn in US dollars wherever you live. You don't have to live in the United States to be able to earn in US dollars. You can earn in US dollars wherever you live, in your town, in your village, no matter how remote that is, as long as you can have access to the digital media, which we are going to explain in the few slides to come. Then it begs the question again, how do you earn in dollars?